So I'm gonna compare the best metal foil cards decks from Bologna and Las Vegas, give a point for each of those duels and see which event had more interesting decks in my opinion. Unfortunately, we don't have a photo for Vendotti. He was first out of 47 fioras playing in Bologna and took the 53rd place, which is pretty high. Good for him. And in Vegas, we had... we had his depression. He must be playing Valorant. There's no way he's not playing not playing Valorant with this nickname. We have to ask him. Or maybe he will watch the video and let me know in the comments. That would be fantastic. Anyways, take a look at the deck lists, shall we? So the deck list from Bologna was playing with the dragons, Harness Dragon in the top end and another copy of it in the sideboard. We also have actions in main. Both of them will be playing actually actions, but it's like a very more, like, let's say just honest deck, you know? Like overall Fiora is like one of those decks that actually I feel like could be one of the best decks to start playing the game with. It's also pretty easy to build it because Riposte is found in the pre-constructed decks, right? So if you buy the pre-constructed deck, you already have Lucian's, if I'm not mistaken, there might be action in it as well. Anyway, the point is, what the things that you have to buy is essentially just sets and additional copies of Riposte, right? And then the version from Las Vegas is very similar, but it doesn't play the dragons and instead plays spectral matrons, and it has two first mates. That's something that the Bologna version doesn't have, and I feel like it's hard to say which one I prefer because both of them have upsides and downsides. I feel like Harness Dragon is fantastic. It's actually very good in current meta game, and it's something that not many people even play around because not everyone is playing Harness Dragon right now, right? So it hits harder. Actions and main in both decks is great to see, but I feel like first mates are so important in this deck that the spectral matron allows you to even play more of those first mates overall in the game, that you're gonna be trying to steal more games. And I feel like because of this, even though I do like the overall version with the Harness Dragons, right, with this one I kind of like it probably more, but I do think the better version is probably this one with the first mate and the spectral matrons. I just like how it allows you to be a little bit more you know, complex in the decision making and how aggressive can you be. And also with the two death grips in the main and no death grips here in the version from Bologna, you're able to get more value out of your gear, right? Like one of the tricks that you do with death grip is, or with punch first for example, right, you can do one of the buffs or the gear, then you kill the unit with a death grip after it went to a battlefield. It gives you the entire bonus. So if you had like a Lucian with a BF sword, it gives you +6 for example when you do a death grip on him on a different unit, and then you can equip the BF sword and suddenly the unit has +9 out of nowhere, right? That will allow you to push through. When you combine that with the first mate, now suddenly you have an option to just to push into 2 battlefields in one turn in a very easy setup, specifically also because you can have those first mates in your graveyard and then have a spectral matron to get it another copy of it from the graveyard. So I do think, even though I like the version with Dragon more, I do think this one from Vegas is better and probably higher skill ceiling as well. So not gonna lie, I was like, wow, they are very similar to each other. Like they look like brothers. It's the same person. Azir was being won by the same person in both Bologna and Las Vegas. What a beast. Look, he has a photo with 2 metal foil Azirs over here. That's hilarious. I love it. There were 48 Azirs in Bologna. He finished 50th and he finished 13th and out of 51. What a crazy player. Well, let's take a look if he changed anything in his deck list. So Rogue.io finished exactly the same with the exact same deck list. There were no changes between Las Vegas and Bologna, and he won both metal foil cards with the same exact deck week after week. That is incredible performance, specifically also on a deck that is a little bit easier to understand how to play against, right? And I still like it. I feel like it's a great deck. By the way, very cheap. It's basically like all commons and uncommons apart from Arise. That's the only card that is worth any money over here. Like the Azir Sovereign, you can just buy it for like $2 or something. Like Arises will be like $20 each, and that's about it. You know, the deck doesn't really have anything else. So if you want a competitive deck, this is it. Like the yellow Viktor control deck or Azir, and I would prefer Azir because it gives you a little bit more proactivity. They're crazy performance. So I'm not gonna give here a single point to any event because I'm just gonna give like 1 point each. I guess it's the same, right? But it's the same deck, it's the same person. It's crazy. I guess with Alan I will have to do the same. He's just gonna, yeah, I mean, both both of those people won the best cards of their each class week by week. That's crazy. Let's see if there are more people like this. We have Anarchy from Team Cope competing with Annie, and there were 67 players in Bologna actually playing Annie. That's a pretty high number, and they finished 27th in the entire tournament. Very good score, so congrats to Anarchy. And then in Las Vegas, we had Kenko, let's say Kenku, out of 31 players, so half of it, even less than half, of the same amount of players were playing on Annie in Las Vegas. I'm not certain actually why is that, because I feel like Annie is like the second best choice to a miracle deck, right? So if you want to play like a miracle deck, that's probably the best choice after Draven. And I feel like that single-handedly should put in like the population ahead of almost every other deck that it should be like, you know, hunting for a meta card prize. Right? It's because there's no reason to play like miracle deck. If you try to win a tournament, you're gonna play Draven. If you are gonna play a miracle deck on any other character, then you're gonna just play for like a metal card, right? for a metal foil. So Kenku finished 69th. Now let's take a look at the deck list of them. So it turns out the Bologna Annie from the top 32 was actually a mid-range one. So essentially the same one that we played already in set 1, but without the Vi. She is in the sideboard here and even 3 copies, so there is a plan B, right? When you're gonna go into that Vi combo. I'm actually not certain why just not play even one in the main deck. Just to have that option. Like, you already play Ride the Wind, so why not just have one of them in the main board, right? And you can definitely find space for it. Even the longsword could be just replaced, right? But other than that, let's talk a little bit, because there's some nice choices over here. So Poros, Tide Hunters, Traveling Merchants, all of that are standard stuff, right? You want to have the aggressive package, and Titan is great as well. To look for more combo pieces like with the Traveling Merchant, but again, like the Vice and the sideboard, right? And we have Fizzes to replay your stack decks, to replay your Rebuke if necessary, or your Ride the Wind, which is also pretty nice. Then we have Rengar, and remember, you can play Fizz and Ride the Wind your own Fizz, right? Rengar is a great addition, and I feel like he fits in any a lot, because remember, you don't have to play him when you're attacking. You can use him as a reaction spell, essentially, to just when you're defending a battlefield, right? He's gonna be a 3 might, but when you're untapping, you have 1 energy open, you untap to 3, and then someone attacks into your battlefield, and you can just play Rengar for 3 energy, and it's gonna be additional 3 might. That can actually win you the combat, right? So, and also remember, you don't have to play on battlefield. So when someone opens a showdown, even an open showdown, you can just play a unit into your base, so you have an additional unit that maybe you didn't have there. Like, I feel like if you play any mid-range, maybe we should even look at more than 1 Rengar, because the card is very flexible. Other than that, pretty standard stuff. We have the scrap heaps, of course, because we have Traveling Merchants, the deck hands. Not many hidden cards actually in here, just a Fight or Flight, and that's essentially it. Yeah, not many others. 1, 2 Rebukes. Yeah, all standard stuff. Like, the only thing that is really surprising to me is that we do not have the Vi in the main deck instead of the longswords of the Fizzes, for example, or the Brynhirs as well. But other than that, it's a pretty solid and straightforward deck. It's a very aggressive one, so, you know, like, it's gonna be definitely consistent. You can see also that he performed very well with this deck. Now let's compare it to the Las Vegas deck that was in the top 128, and this is a miracle deck, but also it's a little bit of a hybrid, I would say, but it's a hybrid between miracles. Like, my first Annie that I tried as a miracle deck was essentially almost the same. Like, the Nocturnes and Noxus Hopefuls, sorry, not Annie, but like Jinx. Jinx later Annie as well, but I digress, never mind. Point is, this is a deck that is very aggressive and it's very volatile. This is why also you play full chaos, because you just don't need red for anything, basically, right? Specifically also because your chosen unit is purple, so you don't have the same problem as, I mean, it's not a problem, but you don't have the same dilemma that Dravens have when it comes to that you need red for something, right? And all of the purples, like purple is just so stacked, you're going crazy with it, right? And also remember though that Nocturne, when you actually play him from the deck, doesn't require purple. It can be any color. So if you even would play red, you could still play for Nocturne, pay for Nocturne with it. So maybe to some degree, if you would like to play some red power cards, you could play like 2 energies here. If there's not a card that you have to play, like a bushwhack, right? Like a bushwhack that you can play from hidden for purple, or you can play it from hand if you have like 2 energy. I feel like that would be perfectly fine. So maybe that will be a consideration for the future if you want to try a deck like this. But anyway, there's nothing surprising over here. It's just super giga aggro. You have also the possibilities of doing there's actually a lot of 2-drops here, and I'm a little bit surprised that we have the treasure hunters, because typically when you have the Noxus hopefuls, you are not really trying to get that many 2-drops. Like you have a lot of possibilities when it comes to comboing a card to play the Noxus hopeful. Remember, if you play Nocturne from your stack deck, or like well, actually it doesn't matter because you played any other card. Anyway, point is, you have a lot of options to combo it. Like you have the Seals of Discord, you have the stack decks, Cold Shot, all of those trigger the Noxus Hopeful if you need like turn 1 when you're going first. Sorry, when you're going second, then you can use the stack deck. If you're going first, you can go Cold Shot or Seal of Discord if you are like very, very badly need a 2-drop, right? So there's a lot of possibilities here. And I like the deck. It's pretty neat. I'm not certain if I like the Mind Splitters in the sideboard, but there's also a downwell combo as well with the Annie, right? So not certain which matchup would you like to play that. Probably against Ornn Miracles maybe. But at the same time, they would just replay the Brazas. Depends on the context, right? Against an Azir would be nice, I guess, for example. Now I have to choose. Which one do I prefer? The mid-range or the Miracle? And I think I'm gonna give it a go to the mid-range from Bologna, because I do like the aggressiveness. Many people forget that a deck like this can exist, and because of that, he's gonna be performing very well. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that we don't even have one Vi in the main board. So if I would be playing this deck, I would definitely do that choice. Darius was won by Asefron29. 23 Dariuses actually were in Bologna. He took the 116th place. Again, pretty nice. Congrats. And then we have Carryboy Danny in Las Vegas with 19 Dariuses, so a little bit smaller amount, and 112th place, so also pretty nice. And the decks between them are completely different. We have Asefron in Bologna playing a baited hook version, which also doesn't have, of course, a lot of 2-drops because there's only 5, right? We have 3 Reksais, 3 Seals, because there are so many things that require you to power yellow, right? Of course, baited hook, but also the Hidden Blades, the Matrons, we have also the Vanguard Captains. All of that requires you to have yellow power, right? And then inside we also have Imperial Decree and Salvage and Calls the Weak, right? And Divine Judgment in one copy, but I feel like if you can play Divine Judgment, you should probably play like 2 in your sideboard against those Miracle decks. But yeah, this is a typical hook deck that tries to top the game with the Draven and Bryn here Thundersong to finish the game, right? So you have Trifarian Warcamp and Zone Warrants to either faster find the better hook or have better power level to actually get better units from your deck when they're on that position, right? So why do we play Monastery of Hirana over here? We have Trifarian Glory Seeker who can be buffed, and anything else? Oh, of course, we have 3 times Rally the Troops. And Rally the Troops is actually pretty nice because with Vanguard Captain, you can do that for 5 resources. Remember that with Darius, you can essentially do it for 4, right? So you're going first and you can play Rally the Troops, Vanguard Captain, and that's incredibly strong. Like suddenly you create 8 power, 8 might for 4 resources, and that is like a very big blowout. And then when you can also forge that into a advantage when it comes to the cards, well, then that's pretty sweet. So that's pretty cool. I like the decks that play Rally the Troops, something that I tried with Viktor as well, but I never played Darius actually in my entire life. And then let's check the version from Carryboy Danny. That is a more honest approach to the game, which is basically I play red units and I try to overrun you, right? We have way more 2-drops. We have 9 of them, Poro, Broker, and Soaring Scout. Essentially, Soaring Scouts are kind of like also seals to some degree. It's a seal that gets you, tries to get you a 1 victory point and then die and give you a seal for 1 turn, essentially, right? That's how it works. But you are a more honest deck that tries to just overrun opponents with fights. That's why you have the Blood Rush and the Cleaves. And I like this. There are 3 Cleaves and 1 Blood Rush, so the player recognizes that he prefers to play a Cleave in general and then has a need for another card that with a similar effect, so chooses Blood Rush as a 4th copy. And I like that very much. Then we have a full set of removals. We have Hidden Blade, 2 Falling Stars, 2 Death Grips, and 2 Cold Weeks and 2 Vengeance. I mean, Death Grip is not a removal, but you get my point. And then also 1 Salvage in the main, 2 in the sideboard. Bryn here, we have 1 in the main. Obviously, because you are a more honest deck, you are trying to play also units that are gonna be drawing you cards. So you have the 3 Kaisas over here because you play red, and that's about it. Like, you can abuse actually Seed of Power because you have a lot of 2-drops. A baited hook version will not play this, right? Then we have the Trimming Tree, which can be triggered with the Blood Rushes, Cleaves, and Hidden Blades, and with the Death Grip. So all of that is a pretty neat card advantage engine. And Vilma's Lair, I guess against Irelia's, and that's maybe to some degree against Miracle decks, maybe. Anyway, pretty neat, nice deck. Now, I don't know. At first time I have to think, and I feel like I'm gonna give this one to Baited Hook or Midrange. Baited Hook or Midrange. I'm thinking I'm gonna give it to Bologna because I have a weak spot for the Rally the Troops, and I like that combo very much. So I'm gonna give it to the Darius from Bologna. This one is the more interesting and maybe a better deck, but I do understand that it's less consistent because it's a Baited Hook deck. Next, we have Alan, who in Bologna won out of 77 different Ezreals. Not only he has the metal foil, but also the entire title for the event. Incredible achievement for Alan. And then we have Alan also finishing 8th in Las Vegas, which is also incredible. 74 players there, so a little bit less. And I'll tell you this: if you're gonna be competing in Lille, like just don't choose Ezreal. Just don't. You know, that's about it. And when it comes to his deck list, I feel like I'm not qualified enough to talk about it. I love the fact that he has 3 Vexes in the main. I love the card, and I'm just gonna repeat it again because it's so funny that at the beginning of the expansion, when I spoke to Alan and I said to him, Vex is insane, he told me, nah, it's a shit card. It's so funny in retrospect for me. I'm going to be talking about it every single time. We're going to be talking about Vex and Alan's decks. Other than that, he chose 2 differences between his decks between Bologna and Vegas. So in Bologna, he played only 1 Ezreal Prodigy. In Las Vegas, he plays 2. So he plays 1 less Raza. And then he also in Las Vegas cut the retreat because he added the Ezreal, right? And because of that, he also chose to play 1 more Bellows Breath. If you want to play a incredible control deck, Ezreal is the choice, but I'll tell you this, you need to put so many hours of practice into playing this deck, otherwise you're just not gonna have fun. You're just gonna be finishing in time, you're gonna be drawing a lot of games, and it's also, you're gonna fuck it up a lot. The deck is incredibly complex, and to navigate all of it in timely fashion requires so much practice. Garen versus Garen is gonna be between T from Bologna and Duality from Las Vegas. They both choose to play the Aurora version of Garen. There's one big difference though. T from Bologna opted to choose Altars of Memories to essentially have additional card draw when his units from Forge of the Future of Vanguard Armory will die, so he can look deeper for the Aurora or other cards that he needs in the specific matchups, like digging for Imperial Decree might also be very important, right? And then the rest of the deck is almost identical. Those are the very small differences, like there's 1 challenge in Duality's deck in Las Vegas, but there's no Altar of Memories, right? So that's like one of the features here. So I would say that we have a winner here from Bologna, because the Altar of Memories is just such a cool card, such a cool addition. So even though they're almost identical, I'll give this one to Bologna. Next, we have the battle of the top 8 players. Kraus finished third with Irelia out of 129 players in Bologna. And then we have Deluxe Filchis, who finished 6th out of 132 players in Las Vegas. And immediately between the decks, we have a huge difference. In Bologna, Kraus plays with the deckhand and the big Draven, while the Las Vegas version of Irelia plays the Vexes in the main. And I'll be honest with you, you play Vex, you got me, you know, like I do think that I prefer the version with the Vex. It specifically also just absolutely wrecks the mirror. It's completely a blowout. If you're able to just land a combat with Vex in the mirror, you're just basically just making sure that your opponent cannot play any spells while you can just play them for free, essentially. The one thing I don't like about the Las Vegas version is the fact that we don't have a Ride the Wind. I feel like with Vex, you actually would like to have Ride the Wind even more, because it allows you to be incredibly aggressive with the Vex. You can move her, like, you know, mid showdown as well to completely fuck over your opponents. Although bear in mind, if you play against a deck, like if it's a mirror, then the Ride the Wind Vex doesn't really work that well, because your opponent will just answer with reactions. But overall, I feel like with Vex, with Ride the Wind, just goes over the moon. Other than that, there are some also different choices when it comes to battlefields. We have in Las Vegas a Aspirant's Climb, which is interesting. Obelisk of Power and Dreaming Tree. So Dreaming Tree and Obelisk of Power is common choice, but then we have Sunken Temple and the Aspirant's Climb. Interesting choice, I'll be honest with you. I did not think that Irelia could play Aspirant's Climb, and I don't know what's the experience over here, but it's an interesting choice. One thing that I have to be said though about Irelia as a deck itself, I feel like this deck without a herder is manageable, but if an Irelia player lands a herder and is able to just even draw like 2 cards out of it, it's getting so hard to remove it. And if you have like a, you know, Guardian Angel or Zonya into Silicon Herder, I don't know, man. Like, it really sucks. So I feel like Silicon Herder is making this deck really oppressive. But then Vex is another card kind of similar to it, right? When the combat just becomes a completely unplayable showdown when it comes to like playing anything mid showdown. So when you have a combination of both of those, and then on top you have also the Irelia, like this deck is really strong, like really strong. I just would love to squeeze in those Ride the Winds here as well. So yeah, Las Vegas wins here in my eyes. All right, next we have Jax. We have Bubo, who finished 35th out of 34 Jax players. Incredible performance, not gonna lie. 35th is crazy for a Jax, right, to finish that high when it was definitely under the radar. But not only that, in Las Vegas we had the very best gamer, who finished 7th out of 44 Jax players. So not only there were more Jax players, but he also finished higher than Bubo. Of course, different competition, different type of an event. I mean, not different type, but different event. But congrats to both of them. Finishing that high with Jax is actually incredible. But small caveat, you have to remember that in Bologna, the ruling about juggling the equipment on the same unit with the Jax was different. In Bologna, it was not possible to do that, while in Vegas, it was possible to bounce and juggle the same unit with the same equipment, which triggers, for example, a Philios, right? So, or re-equips a Brutalizer on the same unit. And because of that, this is definitely a buff to Jax, and the performance was definitely a little bit better for Jax in Vegas because of that. Now, when it comes to the deck lists, they're very similar. This is the Bologna deck list from Bubo. This is the Las Vegas one. So you can see the difference like instantly. The version from Las Vegas plays Bond Shivers. That's the main difference, and 3 Counter Strikes, while Bubo's version in Bologna plays 2 Counter Strikes and no Bond Shivers. So 9 equipment to 11 over here. And also there's a Sabotage main for Bubo, and less 2-drops because there are 2 Clockwork Keepers. Now, I actually in secret, quote unquote, was playing Jax as well, but I didn't even like, you know, want to play it on an event because I was either playing Draven or Kaisa myself. But Azir and Jax are like my next decks that I have in a box and I play from time to time. And my own version of Jax essentially is similar actually not that similar to neither of them. Actually, maybe to Las Vegas because I do have a bunch of it, but I might be cutting it. Anyway, my point is I did changes according to the meta game because I don't, for example, I don't play Warmog's armor because I play Dorans to avoid being absolutely dismantled by pickpockets. I think it's actually very big problem. So I also cut the Monastery of Hirana, and the third battlefield for me is currently the Forge, but it's it depends, you know, like it can still change, but that's one of the things. And I also just cut completely Clockwork Keepers, and instead of that I have the Orange Jacks as a one-off and more Aphelios because of the change to the ruling of Jax himself. Now, if I would have to choose which decklist I prefer to play from those two, I feel like I would probably play the version from Las Vegas over here. More counter strikes, a little bit more early game. The Bond Shivers are pretty nice, and both of them play free herders. That's like the MVP of the deck as well, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. They're very similar. You know, there's like not that many differences between them. The biggest differences are in the sideboard, essentially. But by a small margin, I would prefer the deck list from Las Vegas over here. In Bologna, we had a lot of Jinx players. 47 played the Jinx, and to no surprise, I'm almost certain that it's gonna be a Miracle deck. So, I myself have a Miracle Jinx deck that I like playing and building, but I still didn't min-max it. And also, look at this, what I have. Thank you, Kuba from Rift Lab, for selling me this Jinx. I'll definitely play the Miracle version with it. Anyway, let's go back to recording. So here we do have 47, and then in Las Vegas we have 33 Jinxes and finished 36. And oh shit, look at that. Diggy finished 37th and Eric finished 36. That's sick. That is sick. Let's take a look at the deck list. So here we have the Bologna list is a Miracle deck with Nocturnes, of course, Battering Rams, non-Noxus Hopefuls, which is surprising to me. I feel like with Jinx, that's actually the way to go. My list is like thriving on Noxus Hopefuls, so I personally am biased, right? I'm biased because I have my own like version that I like running. Other than that, Last Rites, this is all standard stuff, 2 Bushwhacks, and also like 2 Bushwhacks for Noxus is, I don't know. Like I feel like you kind of want to have as many units as possible. So let's take a look at the Las Vegas version. The Las Vegas version plays Noxuses, has Nocturnes, 2 Bushwhacks, 1 Fizz. Yeah, this is, I like this one. I feel like it's a little bit more aggressive and all in, and it's in your face, you know? So I like this one a little bit better. 2 super mega death rockets. And here we have 1 super mega death rocket. I feel like with 2, you can a little bit more easily combo, right? And just stack your Jinx a little bit more. 2 gusts in this side. What about this one? No gusts. So there's strong differences in the sideboards, but they're all pretty cool. But I will give it to Las Vegas because I personally, I just have a bias towards the version with the Noxus Hopefuls. That's something that I personally like more. So Eric gets the win for Las Vegas over here. Now we have Kaisa. An incredibly feels bad moment for Fisika over here, who finished 9th and bubbled out of the top 8. That is an incredibly sad moment, and it feels bad. And he finished also first out of 165 players, including me. I was playing Kaisa as well. I think it was a terrible choice to play that event. I should have stuck to the thing that I practiced the most was the Miracle Draven. But yeah, I learned from that. And then we have Agressia, 11th place, also incredible finish, and out of 97. So definitely Vegas had the better read on the metagame. They realized, you know what, the metal foil cards are just warping the format so much. There's no point in playing a counter deck to Draven, right? And that's basically what Kaisa does. So the 9th place Fisika played in Bologna it's very similar to each other. It does 1 Get Excited in the main with 3 Singularities, 2 Time Warps, 3 Piercing Lights, 3 Falling Stars. This is all standard. 2 Bellows Breath, 7 2 drops, which is a little bit on the lower side by 1, essentially, right? 3 Lecturing Yordles, 1 Ferris Forerunner, which is basically takes the slot of the 2 drop over here. 2 more in the sideboard. Yeah, this is pretty standard. 2 smoke screens in the sideboard. That's a little bit different than what you typically would see. And then here we have almost the same, but there are Noxus Hopefuls in the main. And we have 2 Rocket Barrages in the main and 2 Progress Day. What about the also 2 Progress Day over here? So the difference, there's no Get Excited in the main. There's also 7 2-drops. I mean, there's also 2 Noxus Hopefuls, right? So sometimes you can do like a Stupefy plus Noxus if you're going second. Other than that, it's very similar. But I do like the fact that we have Rocket Barrage in the main over here. Now, what about the battlefields? Obelisk of Power, Reverse Row, and Void Gate. And here we have Obelisk of Power, Arena's Greatest, and Void Gate. You know what? I think I like the version that has Get Excited and the first Forerunner in the main. Although first Forerunners are also here, but no, with no Get Excited. Oh man, this is a hard choice. They are so similar to each other. There's not really that big of a difference. The 2 Noxus Hopefuls, what are they replacing over here? We have the 1 Get Excited and the 2 Rocket Barrages over here. And there are two thermals in the sideboard. Okay, you know what? I like this version from Las Vegas a little bit more. I like the Rocket Barrages in main. It gives you a little bit more flexibility. You have still very like a huge amount of early game minions as well. There's 1 Get Excited in the sideboard. Yeah, I prefer the version from Las Vegas over here. Even though it finished 11th and not 9th, I do think this is slightly better. Next is gonna be Lucian Boxing Ring XD. If you type in XD in your name, you have to be Polish, by the way. We have 162nd place, and then from Vegas we have Silverman 324 place. And by the way, there's a difference here, 19 to 18 Lucians when it comes to the overall players playing in those tournaments. Let's take a look at the deck lists. So this is kind of hilarious, but Boxing Ring Lucian and Silverman's Lucian is literally just like, I just swapped. There's the version from Boxing Ring has the primal strength and 2 charms, 2 defies, 2 and guard, right? So it's like 2/2/2, while the version from Silverman has no primal growth and has 3 charms, 3 defies, and 1 and guard. So let's take a look at also at the sideboards. Okay, there are bigger changes in the sideboard, and because of what I see here in the sideboard, I like it more in the version. Overall, I like the version from Silverman more. There's more consistency in the main deck because there are 3, 3, and 1 instead of 2, 2, 2, and 1. And then I like the sideboard more because it has particularly like some hate cards, like the action, like the sabotage, which we don't find in the version from Boxing Ring. So this one goes to Las Vegas. Next on the block is gonna be Lux, and here we have a Polish brethren, Ornn, Polska Górą, first out of 34 people. Quite a lot of Lux players as well. He finished at 104th place, still pretty high. No invite to the regional championship, but still pretty high. And then in Las Vegas, we had 45 players, which is even more. But think about it. There were more Lux players than any players. I feel like a lot of people were scared that the potentially powerful decks that are just a little bit lower than the main decks of those colors are gonna be highly populated, and they gravitated towards the other ones. There were not that many differences between the amount of people on Viktor and Lux. It was like 60 to 45. Anyway, Vexer finished 67th. Also, pretty good score, but very unfortunate that he didn't get the top 64. And when it comes to the decks, they're essentially the same. Look at this. I'm swapping between 2 decks. There's 1 different choice in the sideboard, right? There's 2 salvage here. There's 1 salvage here. And there's a King's Edict. And here we have the Recruit, the Vanguard. Everything else is exactly the same, apart from the fact that the Bologna deck has 2 Jaces and the Las Vegas version has 3 Jaces. And there are salvages that are just coming out in and out. And there's a difference in battlefields. There's in Las Vegas, we have Vilemoth's Mall, Sigil of the Storm, and Aspirant's Climb. And here we have Vilemoth's, Void Gate, and Aspirant Climb. So they're essentially almost identical. I don't know who copied who, because even though Bologna was first, maybe they copied someone else. I'm not certain. I don't know the lore here, but my limited point of view here is gonna be like this. which one do I prefer? Because this is basically just a Viktor control deck just being played with looks. That's essentially it, right? I like the fact that they both play pickpockets in the sideboard. This was a card I called out for being like super duper metagame changing in January, and I was right about it. So I'm pretty happy to see that being the case in a lot of blue decks that are being like a free of in the sideboard. And I think I'm gonna give this one to the Bologna deck. I like the fact that it has 2 salvages in main, and like it gives you a lot of outs against like any kind of equipment based deck, right? And if you already have answers towards units, so if you need an answer towards equipment, it's nice to have it in the main board. So I like it very much. Yeah, it's a 50-50 here basically, but it looks in Bologna was played first, so I'm gonna give it to the Bologna looks to Ornn. Now we're going to be talking about Master Yi. Wojtek from my hometown won with 13th place. Insane performance. His mid-range Yi. He is known in our community for playing Master Yi. He's playing it from the beginning. I played once against him in a local when he didn't play Master Yi, and that was on Darius on Hook. And he was like, nah. It went back to Master Yi for forever. So essentially, if you also would like to have a deck tech, it's already on the channel. You can literally watch it. He makes a full breakdown. Incredible performance. And then we have Leona from Challenger TCG, who finished 27th. Also insane performance out of 31 players. So a similar amount of people playing both in Las Vegas and Bologna. Now, I do know the deck list from Wojtek almost by heart, so it's a mid-range version of Master Yi that he pitched himself, essentially, right? This is something that he is just trying to build for a long time. There were some changes in the last days, like literally last day before the tournament. I think it's a very cool version of the deck that doesn't rely on getting lucky, right? Because you don't have an Aurora, you don't have like, you just draw units, and those units almost are doing almost exactly the same, right? Although there is a strict difference with Stella Conherder. Like Stella Conherder is insane. I am actually kind of surprised that he only plays 2 in his Master Yi. Maybe that's a flex spot with like Navori Scout. Maybe there should be like a third herder over here, but in general this deck is incredibly powerful when it's a little bit under the radar and when people forget how it's played, and they just go into an attack a unit that suddenly has +2 might. Believe me when I say this, even really good players do forget from time to time, and sometimes you will win because of that. And Wojtek did get wins because of it. And I know that Villeneuve from Challenger TCD also had wins because of the same effect. But Villeneuve is playing an Aurora, and I don't like Auroras, so I'm just gonna give it to Wojtek. I think a more creative approach to the deck list is just more interesting. This is just basic Aurora stuff, so nothing surprising over here, right? You just have big units and Aurora, and then you have Twonk, you have Desert's Call, because that's the good answer to yellow, and Call the Weak as well, right? This is like something that every single Master Yi will play. So yeah, we're giving this one to Bologna and to Wojtek's Master Yi mid-range deck. Yasuo was being played by 39 players in Bologna, and when it was played in Las Vegas by 36, so very similar. Luigi Amato took it in Bologna with the 92nd place, while Gentle Giant was 178. I mean, to be honest, breaking top 100 is pretty nice, specifically also with a, let's say, a lower tier deck like Yasuo. But let's take a look at the deck list. Luigi's version of the deck from Bologna is a little bit more streamlined. Obelisk of Power, Sunken Temple, Dreaming Tree, so very standard battlefields. And then we have a very good set of units. They're all proven and worthy, right? We have Lonely Poros, Sneaky Deckhands, Stella Conherder, and Irelias. And it's essentially kind of similar deck to what Irelia does, right? You have to ride the winds, you have the flights of lights. You're just trying to move your units as soon as possible. Sorry, not as soon as possible, but like get a lot of value out of your Stella Conherders and Irelia. And this deck kind of lives and dies by the herders. Like, you are able to just completely outvalue your opponents if you have the herders and you can move them instantly with your Yasuo. Irelia does the same, but even with a different kind of expense. Instead of energy, you sacrifice power, right? But yeah, this is a very, very nicely done version, I would say, of the deck, and I do prefer it over the Las Vegas version, because the Las Vegas version is a little bit more, like there's a lot of one-offs in some kind of weird approaches. You know, it's like we don't have the sneaky decks over here, so there's less aggressive approach, right? We have the back alley bar, which is cool choice, but I would have to question how effective it is when it comes to actually giving power. And then we have the teemos, which can be an additional hidden card, and that can be confusing to your opponents. Can be also used as a 2-drop if you really badly need it. But then is there even a way of you bouncing him to hand? I don't think so, no? So that's a little bit awkward. But there's a Vex in the main deck, which is nice because I feel like every single Irelia should be playing Vex in the main deck. I was voicing that opinion at the beginning of the metagame, and I think I was proving right by how Vex is a good card now with Alan, who played it in the Ezreal, and I feel like Irelia players will now also choose to play the Vex. And I feel like Yasuo, because it's just kind of mimics, Irelia will and should be playing Vexes in the main deck as well. And specifically when we have the slots in the sideboard, then we definitely will find the slots in the main board as well. What the hell is happening here? 2 lonely portals in the main and 2 lonely portals in the sideboard. That is not legal. This should be a one-off over here. Anyway, congrats to Luigi Amato. Top 100 with Yasuo is pretty impressive at such a big tournament. All right, in Bologna, when it comes to Volibear, we had Dr. Loki taking the 30th place, which is insanity, by the way. Out of 1,700 people, well, 15-something, 100 people, he took the 30th place with a Volibear. That's absolutely mental. And there were 27 people playing overall with Volibear, which is quite a lot for the entire event. Now, let's compare it to Vegas. We have E3 TCG, who placed 87th, which is also massively impressive, and played only out of 15. So kudos to both of those players, but 30, that's mad impressive. Let's take a look at the deck lists. To absolutely no one's surprise, we have both of them playing Aurora. So there are some differences though, and there are some cool points that I'm going to be giving out. So Juan Fra Matteo in Bologna was playing a little bit more streamlined version. There are no surprises over here, basically at all. Like I maybe people will be surprised by Carnivorous Snapvine, but if you were actually paying attention to some of my older videos before Spirit Forge was released, I was saying that Carnivorous Snapvine is actually something that I feel like should be played in Master Yi Aurora, because you're gonna be having a problem with going back to battlefields, and Carnivorous Snapvine will allow you to go over those pesky 5 might units while still playing in the base. Like it's a very neat creature, you know. And other than that, in the sideboard we have additional copies Snapvine, 2 actions, Thermal Beam and Bring here with 3 copies. Now let's take a look at the version from Las Vegas, and this one is a little bit more spicy. And I like this spiciness. There are a lot of like stuff that can just completely take someone by surprise. So we have 1 copy of Vi, right? And then we have 3 copies of Yona. And Yona with the Stormbringer, that is nasty. Stormbringer, if you don't know what Volibear's signature does, is choose a friendly unit in your base, deal damage equal to its might to all enemy units at a battlefield, then move your unit there. When you combine that with Yona, then suddenly Yona deals 5 damage to a battlefield, right? To every single unit there, and then you move to an open battlefield, and when he conquers an open battlefield, then he deals damage equal to my might to an enemy unit in the base. So it's a very neat combo. Now it's hard to pull it off in one turn if you don't have already the Yona on the board, right? Because it has 11 energy, but it's still possible. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible, right? So I really like this more, like, let's say a little bit more cheeky version with the Vi and the Yona. So I think the Las Vegas deck here wins, even though it's placed lower than the version from Bologna. And also remember, you can do the same combo with the Stormbringer with Vi, right? You play Vi, you, let's say, recycle 8 cards, suddenly Vi goes to 11, then you do Stormbringer, and that's much easier to do because that's only 8 energy, right? It's 2 plus 6, and you deal the X amount of damage, which would be like 11, to a battlefield, and then you move the Vi to the battlefield, and if she was not tapped because she was like a turn before played, for example, or you had a confront to make your unit enter ready, then suddenly you can gank on the other battlefield. It's a really neat version. I like it. I really like this Volibear Aurora version, although I feel like maybe this could be played as a mid-range version without the Aurora, but at the same time, this is something that can be played when you don't draw the Aurora as well, and suddenly you have a lot more possibilities of actually comboing out, right? Even when you don't hit the Aurora. And there's also the Magma Worm to make your units enter ready, so you can have that Vi even without confront, right? It's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I really like this. Like, it kind of makes me want to play it. So this one goes to Las Vegas. Next, we have a top 8 player. Ghost Driver has finished 4th place out of 54 victors. So incredible performance. Big congrats to him. He for sure was very happy after the finish. And then when it comes to Las Vegas, we have Custom Dipped, who played 67 victors overall against other 67 victors in the event and finished 19th, which is also incredible. Like, I cannot express it enough. Finishing in like top 64 in such a huge event with over 1,500 players is absolutely incredible, and big congrats. All right, so they play exactly the same deck. Both of them have exactly, card by card, including sideboards, exactly the same deck. It's a mid-range Viktor, 3 pickpockets main, 3 Zinzao with the Glass Mixologist, and and 1 time warp. It's exactly the same battlefield, same runes, everything is literally the same. So I'm gonna go on a limb and say that this goes to Bologna because first and foremost, it was a week earlier and it was a top 4 finish. So I'm gonna assume that this deck was a creation of Ghost Driver from Bologna. So 1 point for Bologna over here. In the next spot, we have Specimen, a Specimen playing teemo. 27 players in Bologna chose teemo. He got the 71st place. And in Las Vegas, we have LS, who you definitely know from League of Legends if you were ever invested in that scene. He got the 63rd place, which qualifies him for the regional. And we have 32 players playing teemo in Las Vegas. Now, let's compare the decks because I'm certain they're different. I played against a Specimen at the airport as well when we were going back. Pretty cool guy. And very good player, of course. And now let's take a look at their decks. So we have this is the Specimen from Bologna. This is a very aggressive deck because it does have Pit Crew in it, has the Arena's Greatest. Like, those are the giveaways, right? You see Arena's Greatest, you see Power Nexus, you see Pit Crew, and you see Candlelight. That means that you have Nocturnes in the deck as well, right? It's super duper aggro. It's a little bit of a casino deck. What is very nice about it is, like, you can see the curve. What playing teemo in a deck like that allows you to do is that you don't need any 2-drops. Everything is free, right? Free, 4, 4, 7, and that's essentially it. Your 2-drop is your teemo in your chosen champion. You don't really care how much power he has. He's just there to just get 1 point and then go back to the hand or something, right? So that's essentially it. And if you play you go first, you play teemo, then in turn 2 you go to a location, you get the point, you play a 3-drop and you bounce the teemo, right? So easy peasy, right? You can even like play a unit on that battlefield that you control now, and yeah, you can hide it either after that, right? After we bounce it. Anyway, the point is, it's a pretty aggressive deck, right? You have the combo of Pit Crew with Khal. You have the possibilities of just playing randomly Nocturnes out of your stack decks and cold shots, and also out of the Candlelight Sanctum. And there are 3 main pickpockets. Now, this is a great call for the metagame if there would be no metal foil cards, I would say, right? Because if there would be no metal foil cards in a main event, 3 pickpockets main, I feel like are very viable. There's so many seals in all the purple decks, right? That you're gonna have them being played in the first match to a high success rate. And it's a very aggressive deck, so if you blow out people, out-tempo them with stuff like this, you just instantly win, right? So I really like this deck. I think it's very nice at doing what it does, which is playing aggressively a blue-purple deck that people might not know exactly how to play against. And also 3 times Edge of Night will catch people off guard, unless they already know that you play 3 off. But if they don't know it, they're gonna have such a hard time attacking into the battlefields when there's gonna be so many options in which hidden card can it be? Now, when it comes to LS, this is a version with the miracle package, right? We have the Razas. When it comes to a specimen, we didn't have the Razas, right? But we had the Nocturnes, right? So it still has, of course, Ezreals and cold shots because that is just insane. But the difference is in everything else, right? We have the fizzes, we have the traveling mansions, we have the scrap heaps, we have a mundo. Like, this is way more controlish. There are a lot of different options over here. There's even one guerrilla warfare and a time warp. This is a full control list that tries to win the more traditional way, right? And cheat out with time warp. So there's, oh my god, there's a lot of one-offs in the sideboard as well. Anyway, yeah. This is a miracle slash control list, essentially. It's a little bit slower than your typical Dravens. I'm gonna give it here to, they're both cool decks. That's 100% certain. They're both cool decks, but I'm gonna give it to Specimen. I feel like finding an aggressive deck that works through different angles, right? And we have the Pit Crew, we have the drop borders, we have the Pickpocket, which has a different kind of attack on your opponents, and then we have the Nocturnes as well. This is all like working together very well, and it is a little bit inconsistent because sometimes you just get those Nocturnes into your hand and it kind of feels bad, right? But there's so many different angles that you can attack that I feel like blanking out is gonna happen more rarely than with other decks. So anyway, 1 point for Bologna. Now this is crazy. Extasio finished 10th out of 53 players on Sivir. Not feeling as bad as 9th, but still pretty sad. But look at this. No veggies out of 55 players finished 9th. That's crazy. Well, that feels bad for sure. And this is gonna be a fast duel. The Bologna deck has essentially, it's just an Aurora deck, you know what? So I guess I'm biased a little bit again. I'm not a fan of any of the Aurora decks. I feel like they just kind of cheesy, you know, but I know I'm a dirty Draven mid-range miracle player, not mid-range miracle player. So what do I know? So not a fan of the Aurora deck, but I do understand that it is powerful. And then in Las Vegas, we have no veggies playing the miracle version, which I personally am biased towards too. So I like this one more. And is there anything surprising over here? We have the Nocturnes, we have the Razas. Not certain if the previous versions of Sivir were playing Nocturnes. I don't think so. I don't think they did. Although I do think that Battle Mistress does get a little bit more value out of the Nocturnes because you can recuperate the cost with the gold generation, right? If you play like a stack deck or like Candlelight Sanctum, you get basically that gold back. So that is pretty neat. Other than that, not really many big surprises over here, although there are 2 scrap heaps, which is kind of interesting that we didn't have the slot for the 3rd one, but you definitely need to have Confront and on the Hunt. Essentially, those 2 are acting like the copies of Bushwhacks in the red miracle wrists, right? When you need to enter ready, or you're ready after the fact with the on the Hunt. On the Hunt is a little bit easier to squeeze into the round because it costs 1 instead of 2, right? And Confront costs 2, but it is a cantrip as well, so that's also pretty neat because you can play it early and then rebuy it with a fizz, for example. Blunder won the Bologna best of metal foil card from Ahri. He was competing with 54 players and finished 48th. Also very impressive showing by Blunder over here. And let's compare it to Las Vegas. We had 42 players, which is also pretty high, I would say. And Nightingale was the 77th place. Also pretty impressive showing. Look, I'm not an expert in Ahri. I'd never played Ahri in my entire life. I only played against Ahris, but I do like this one, Block. That is a card that I like really a lot. I feel like it's actually a very good card that you can, can play as a hidden. It's also an action that gives you shield 3 in a tank. Like it breaks the math. If you were paying attention to the video that I was doing at the beginning of Origins, when I was doing a comparison, how much open mana can equal to how much might, I was bringing up Block as a legit valid option because I still think it's a very good card. I know it's a one-off, but I'm just happy to see it. You know, that's about it. Also, there are 3 Sonas. Big fan of this card, as I explained before as well in the video. And I just miss Janna over here, right? I feel like if you play 3 Sonas, you want to play Jannas, or at least one Janna over here. There's a nice way of helping yourself if you're behind in this deck as well. There's 1 copy of Unchecked Power. And I know you're not capable of going into the battlefields after you do unchecked power because your creatures are tapped, right? So, and there's no way of untapping your creatures, if I'm not mistaken, over here. So that's a thing. There's also a possibility of, actually, let me check. Never mind, you cannot do that. I was thinking if you can blitzcrank a unit to a battlefield and then unchecked power, but that's not a possibility. Anyway, I do like this version with the 3 sonas, and let's compare it to the version from Las Vegas, where we have the Janna, but only 1 Sona. What's going on here? And there's a Sunlit Guardian. I have never seen this card actually being played outside of Limited. That is kind of crazy. There are also 2 Azirs for the tricks with the movement. We have a Brutalizer, which we didn't have in... those are very different decks. And there's a Styrax, because we have that 1 Sona. And 3 herders, and there are no herders over here. All right, so I feel like for me, the version with the herders and the Styrax and the Sona and Janna wins. It has a lot of cool points. I feel like you should be playing more Sonas to take advantage of the cards that you have in this deck. Like, there's so many things you can do as of reaction speed, you know? So it's like, I'm not certain. But I do like the Las Vegas version more than the Bologna version. In Bologna, we had 20 Leona players, and Dakota 97 was the 320th place out of the 1,500 players. And in Vegas, we don't have the photo. La Finte, out of 35 Leona players, took the 263, so kind of similar. Let's take a look at the deck lists. The Leona from Bologna was a little bit, in my eyes, consistent, so you're probably gonna already know which one is the winner, because for me it is the Bologna deck list. But it is showcasing a little bit of a version where you are trying to be a little bit more present. So you have Stellacon Herders, you have Sona, and those allow you to snowball out of control. And I feel like if there's a green card that needs to be banned, it's gonna be probably Stellacon Herder. I feel like this card is just obnoxious, and it single-handedly just kind of breaks Irelia. But anyway, I digress. So my point is, this Leona looks a little bit more consistent, but also tries to snowball the game with Sona and Stellacon Herder, right? Which is very early in the game, which both are 4-drops, right? So you're gonna try to do that very early on in the game, and it allows you to steal some games. While the version from La Finte is a little bit more, let's say, just fair and on the ground, you know? Like, we have the Noxian Drummers, we have the Fiora, we have like just a little bit more, like, let's say, honest approach to the fights. The only trick that is like something that I would love to see in the Bologna version is the Janna. The Janna is found in the Las Vegas version from La Finte, and I feel like it's one of those tricks that is actually incredible when you combine it with Sona, right? Because then you have always the space for the energy to find for Janna. Now the problem is, where do you find this? The slots, right? And then in the sideboard, this, I feel like it's kind of weird to have a 2-drop Honest Broker in the sideboard. I wonder why is that? Is it when you play against the yellow deck, I guess? Maybe you want to play against Call the Weak a little bit more? Kind of interesting. Probably. I'm gonna have to ask the player, but yeah. Emperor's Divide is in both decks. Two of them are in the Las Vegas version, 3 of them are in the Bologna version, and it makes sense because the Bologna version is more about how you combo it with your units. You try to save your Sona, you try to save your Herder, right? So that's why you have the 3 Emperor's Divide. But clearly, for me at least, right, even though I'm not an expert on Leona, I think the better deck here is the one from Bologna. Now we're going to be talking about Drinkmaker 888. He might be a bartender. Who knows? He finished 18th. As a Lucian. That's insane. Great stuff. I don't have a lot of personal experience with Lucian. Like, I played against the... Oh, no. Oh, okay, what happened here? Anyway, I played against some of them, mostly combos. I don't even know if this is a combo, so we'll see. But most of them were not really that great. So we'll see what happens here. 41 players actually played Lucian in Bologna. And then when it comes to Vegas, we have Damon XGG. 51 players. Wow. That's actually pretty popular for... I didn't think that Lucian is going to be that popular. And 56 place. Also pretty good finisher. Now let's take a look at the decks. So the decks are almost identical. I'm not an expert to say if this is like min-maxed and there's no way of playing like a better version. It's just that's it. That's how you play Lucian. They both play Skyfall and of course the Trinity Force. The differences are minimal. Battlefields are the same: Forge of the Flood, Obelisk of Power, and Sunken Temple. You do have 2 drops in form of equipment, right? So we have Thorans, Hex Drinker in Bologna, Longsword, Bond Shiver, 2 times Skyfall, 3 times Trinity Force, right? That's all the gear that we have, including 2, 3, 5, 2 drops, which is not that many, right? And then in the version from Las Vegas, we have 3 Dorans, 2 Longswords, so also 5 2 drops, and now Hex Drinker. So the one Doran Blade became a Hex Drinker in the Bologna version, while the Las Vegas version doesn't opt to play the Hex Drinker. I think that's just a personal choice. Not really that big of a difference in most cases, right? But the +1 sometimes changes a lot, and the deflect not that much, right? So it depends on the context, of course. If you play against the Kaisa, well, deflect is basically better. But yeah, other than that, we have Piercing Lights in the main, 2 copies or 3 copies. Relentless Pursuit, it's almost identical. And the thing that I like the most is the fact that we are, let me just check. We do have a sabotage in the Las Vegas version, and the sideboard has angle shots, and Bologna version doesn't have it, and the Bologna version has 3 sabotages in the sideboard. So I think I prefer the, actually, that's a hard choice. I'm thinking I prefer the version from Las Vegas. The Bologna version also plays 3 times Burn here. Like, you don't really need 3 of them, right? You kind of need 1 to finish the game, but at the same time, maybe it's so pivotal that you need 1 to finish the game, otherwise you're not going to be able to, right? You don't always draw the combo, specifically also when you play 2 Skyfalls of Arians and not 3, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna go for the Las Vegas version. Like, it seems to me a little bit more interesting to play, but the differences are just minimal anyway. And now we're going to Misfortune. This is our local friend from my hometown, Sebik, who won the best of Misfortune in Bologna, but only that he got the 2nd place in the entire event, which is insane. There were 35 players playing in Bologna. Again, congrats to Sebik. If you want to watch a deck tech, we recorded it. It's on the channel already. You can watch it if you want to learn how he played this deck. And then in Las Vegas, we have Sly, who was one out of the 42 players playing it, took the 134th place. And now the funny part. So the funny part is that Sly took the exact deck from Sebik and just played it as well. That's it. They are literally exactly the same decks, card by card, exactly the same choices, exactly the same sideboard. So obviously this one goes to Sebik because that was his deck that won him the metal foil and also took the 2nd place. Next on the chopping block is gonna be Ornn Ghost Funk from Bologna, finished 490th, which is, you know, it's not terrible. It's still pretty decent finisher, and 33 players brought Ornn, and remember, he earned like $10,000 or more by finishing in top 500 out of 1,500 people, right? That's awesome. That's insane. That's like winning an entire tournament, like a major tournament, and you win it by just playing like, okay, you know, top 500 with an Ornn, which is absolutely mental. And congrats to him, that's fully deserved. And then we have Luna Sky, who played out of 52 players in Las Vegas and finished 54. Very respectable finish now, top 54, qualified for the regionals as well with an Ornn deck. So I'm very interested to see the difference between the Bologna and the Las Vegas. Okay, let's take a look. This is the Bologna deck that finished top 500. We have 3 Tiana Krangard. We have, of course, only 1 Ornn and 1 in the sideboard. Ooh, not a fan of this. Not a fan of this. So even without looking at the Las Vegas list, I'm slowly turning my head towards Las Vegas. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. This is like very risky to play, I would say, even with the 3 Guardian Angels and 3 Zonias. And then the Ornn below from Las Vegas plays 3 Ornns, also has the pet crew, plays no Tianas, but it's a little bit more focused. Yeah, there's a lot of differences when it comes to the actual choices of the gear as well. There are 3 cloth armors in Las Vegas. There are 3 Doran's Shield in Bologna. I do prefer 100% the cloth armor. It's like not even close. The fact it has quick draw is just game changing. It's literally game changing and will throw your opponent's math very, very, very hard. And remember, you don't have to pay the equip cost when you play it from hand as a quick draw. And not only that, when you're defending and it's on an Ornn, it's basically 1 for +3 might. because it adds a gear to the table as well. Cloth armor is absolutely bonkers when you have a blue Ornn on the table. So yeah, I prefer, yeah, this is 100%, the Las Vegas version is superior in my opinion. Like it's way more stable. Also less, a little bit less on the counter spells, I think. Yeah, a little bit less on them, but there's much more proactivity over here. Even if you can say so much about a deck that plays just 3 pet crews and 3 free Ornns, right? But I like it. And there are pickpockets in the side, no pickpockets over here. This is also pretty cool. The Forge Fire Cape in case you are meeting a Victor, although I don't think it changes that much. You know, the matchup is pretty rough otherwise anyway. But this is, yeah, I do prefer seeing this version from Ornn. There are also no singularities in the version from Bologna. So 100%, the winner of this one is Las Vegas. Now we have Reksai and we have Bullet. Top 100 out of 51 players are playing Reksai. And in Las Vegas, we have Vows, top 50, and qualified for the regionals, congrats, with 44 players. So let's take a look at the deck list now. All right, so the Bologna version is your typical Phoenix Reksai. Yeah, I don't see anything that surprises me here. Yeah, nothing really surprising. This is pretty standard stuff when it comes to your Reksai aggro, essentially, right? 8-4 split on the runes. You have the 2 piercing lights, 3 falling stars. Although I feel like your worst matchup is probably Draven, so I would prefer to have 3 piercing lights and 2 falling stars, just in case you are like having like a god hand and you can just kill a 2-drop on battlefield and kill the Draven in the base. So I would prefer to have 3 piercing lights. Let's check, we're gonna check the other deck in a moment. 3 salvages, 2 Dariuses, Imperial Decree, and Ferris Forerunner. This is a, yeah, pretty standard. 1 on the Titan, I like that. There's some arguments can be made that the Bryn here might be something else like a Darius or this first Forerunner, but again, this is a red aggro deck that kind of needs to have a finisher, and Bryn here acts as that finisher. Now let's take a look at the Reksai from Las Vegas. Oh, okay, a mono yellow. Interesting. A mono yellow. Oh my god, it plays Void Drone. Does it have to play Void Drone? That's crazy. Okay, I don't know if the Void Drone is really badly needed, but it is in the deck. And to some degree, it can combo with the Battering Rams and the Noxus Hopefuls. So, and the Rally the Troops. Oh, I'm okay, this is 100%. Okay, we get certified winner, Las Vegas, much cooler deck, 100%. I like it. You have to play the Reksai, the yellow one, which I don't think is better than the red one, but it is a mono yellow deck, right? You could maybe play like 2, maybe 1 red if you would like to play the chosen champion. That would be, you know, the other version. I'm not certain about this, but this is pretty cool. Power Nexus, Arena's Greatest, Trifarian, all of this makes sense. You're playing as a Weenie deck, so Trifarian makes sense. Arena's Greatest because it's an aggro deck, and Power Nexus because you want to finish the game as soon as possible. Specifically also kind of useful when you play seals, and there are 3 seals of Unity over here in this deck. Very cool, I like it. And there are 3 Forge for the of the future. Like it that they are in the sideboard, not in the main. This allows you to have a little bit of a better matchup against all the miracle decks, right? And then we have 3 Call the Week. Okay, not in main. Yeah, and Grand Stratagem only if you need it. Yeah, I do agree with this. You have Under Titans as well. Maybe it's not even needed. I've never played this version, right? But it's like you have Under Titans, so do you really badly need stratagems? Maybe it's a better choice for something in the sideboard, but there's probably a reason. There's probably a good reason to have those stratagems over here. Now, yeah, this is pretty cool. I like it. This is pretty cool build. Very, very, very cool. I like the approach to like mono color decks, and it has trusty Ramhounds. That's so funny. I still like, okay, you know what? Fine. The Void Drone, like I understand. The Battering Ram and Noxus Hopeful is kinda like benefiting from it a lot. So yeah. If you hit it from Void Rush, or if you hit it from the Void Burrower or the yellow Reksai, yeah, I can get it with it, but I don't like the card. Renata was played in Bologna by 26 players, won by just SR. He took the 183rd place. In Vegas, we had, I'm sorry if I mispronounced this, Ryujin Shin, 42 players. And by the way, this is crazy. Vegas had 42 Renata players. Like, I'll tell you this. If you are playing for the Metal Foil card, right, you're trying to find the deck that is going to have the least amount of players. So people will flock to the deck that they think is gonna be the weakest, but then that choice is like the most obvious, so people will not choose that. So the people will go like to the second, maybe third weakest. So everyone is just like kind of like avoiding Garen because of that, right? And then they go to play something else like 42. That's insane. So both of the players, Just SR and Ryujin, play a very similar deck. The difference is that we have a little bit of different amount of drops. So the idea of the deck is that we play for Time Warp, essentially, right? We try to trigger Renata, and then with the amount of gold that we have, we would try to trigger multiple Time Warps or like chain Time Warps and so on. That's why we will have 2 or 3 copies of Time Warp. The side, quest essentially is playing Ornn, which becomes incredibly huge and gonna be able to, like, for example, gank. Now the thing is, the version from Just SR, who was top 256, and Ryujin was also top 256, so not a lot of difference here. They're playing very different battlefields as well. Actually, they do. No, they play... Dude, they are so similar. Arena's Greatest and Reconnor's Arena, they're almost the same. What the hell? Yeah, I was like very confused for a moment. Anyway, I personally played this deck with the location that allows you to gank, which allows your Ornn to be a little bit more mobile, right? They do not play that version, so I made a wrong assumption over here. But the idea is very, very similar. I mean, the deck is almost identical, but the version from Deckle over here in Las Vegas has more amount of true drops. We have additional Ravenbloom students, and we have triple Time Warps, right? There's a little bit more removal, like there's one cold a week in the main board, where the version from Bologna doesn't have that, for example. And I feel like because of a little bit more streamlined version of Las Vegas one, I'm gonna give the better version to the Las Vegas, because I feel like in this deck you really badly need a 2-drop. Like really, really, really badly need a 2-drop. I don't know how, like, to express how important it is that you need to trigger the 5 points to trigger Camp Baroness as soon as possible, because then the deck actually becomes like kind of powerful. And when that happens, you're gonna be able to close out games, and you're gonna make that happen when you have a big amount of 2-drops, because you're gonna be able to attack points faster. Because of that, if you're missing a 2-drop, it's gonna feel like really bad for you. And also because you play the Arena's Greatest, which allow you to, during the one of the games, to trigger that 5 points threshold way faster. So I think I'm definitely giving it to the version from Las Vegas over here. Next in line is gonna be Rumble. We had 25 Rumbles in Bologna, was won by Nacho TCG, 93rd place, and in Vegas we had 35 Rumbles, so way more, and the 268th place was being taken by Pro Steel. The difference between the Rumble decks is actually very interesting. Nacho from Bologna has a very typical, I would say, mech deck, because it focuses on the mechs. We have the 3 Rumble red, 3 Rumble blue, right? And you want to like maximize that, because the Rumbles are scaling. So if you have multiple blue Rumbles, all your mechs are suddenly becoming like +1, +2, +3, right? Because they are going up and up and up. So having 3 is obviously the smart choice. And then we have like the finishers being Forest Fauna, of course, because it's a mech, and the Thousand Tail Watcher, which is one of the best cards in blue, and Bryn here to just stop. This is like all standard stuff, right? We have the all standard stuff, the Plundering Boros, just to help a little bit with the gold, so this is nothing surprising. Then we have a set of Falling Star and Piercing Light with 2 and 2, although I don't like the 2 and 2. I feel like in metagame you should probably go for a 3 and a 1, because you know which one is better for you when it comes to matchups. 2 Singularities, there's 1 Time Warp to cheat out a wins, right? And 2 Retreats and 2 Stupefy. And also the Danger Zone, because you play so many mechs, the Danger Zone actually matters in those fights, so I like that. And then when you compare it to Pro Steel's Las Vegas Rumble, I feel like this deck is just like, I essentially take a Kaisa deck and I put Rumble in it. That's how I feel about it. You know, we have the Darius, we have the Thousand Tail Watchers, we have the Kaisas, and then we only have the 3 red rumbles. And because of that, you have less synergy, so you're cheesing out less wins. It's more honest, I would say, right? This deck is a little bit more honest because it plays like a way more straightforward game. You can see even the progress day, like this is like very standard stuff apart from the frigid touch, which I don't really know why are we choosing this to be in the main deck. I'm not certain. Maybe because we're trying to hold, I don't know. Kind of hard to say without exactly like making a full analysis, but this is a more like a Kaisa deck, and you can even see that in the locations as well. But the battlefield is Targon Peak, Obelisk of Power, and Dreaming Tree, while the Rumble from Bologna is more has a game plan of holding or abusing his opponents being stuck, right? So we have Trifarian, we have Vileman's Lair, and we have Obelisk of Power. So I like the most synergized Nacho Gonzalez Rumble, but at the same time, it is easier to read because it is like the mech synergy is essentially you kind of play like a master, right? It's just that you can have multiple units on the board instead of just one at a battlefield at once, right? But overall, it is very similar. Also, I like the sideboard in Nacho's sideboard. We have very designated attack, which is pickpockets against, you know, any seals, although I would love to have 3 of those, personally. 2 angle shot against Dravens, most likely. Then we have Minotaur Reckoner, which is great against Irelia, for example, and Teemo Beam against, well, whatever, right? Irelia's, maybe to some degree. It's good against Azir, of course, against Ornn, and so on. So this one goes to Bologna. Nacho Gonzalez is my choice when it comes to the better rumble. When it comes to Sett in Bologna, Tomino took it first out of 29 players and 96th place overall. Very nice score. Like to be in 100 top 100 with Sett is pretty impressive. And then we have also Viktor Lupin taking 117, which is also pretty impressive. It's still the top 128, right? Out of 22 players. Now, I do believe Bologna had been a little bit better choice for Sett because there were way more Kaisas in Bologna, which kind of misread the metagame. That was also me. I played Kaisa in Bologna because I thought I'm gonna be frying the Dravens, and then I didn't play a single Draven in day 1, and I was mad as fuck. So yeah, I think Sett was a better choice for Bologna, but let's take a look at the deck list. Tomino in Bologna was playing a little bit of a different version because he was playing Honest Brokers and Fey Dragons. Essentially, the reason why Tomino is playing the Honest Brokers and the Viktor Lupin from Las Vegas is not, and is also like playing a little bit lower on the curve, is because of the gold, right? The gold, even if you create 1 gold, it essentially allows you to just be a little bit faster to get to that point where you could actually play Fey Dragon. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how consistently can you get to the dragon himself. It's very hard for me to say because I don't really have that much experience on the set in set 2. I played him in set 1, but not in really set 2. Other than that, they're pretty similar. They're both try to leverage Lucian very early on. We have the Fioras as well, and the difference here is that Viktor Lupin is also playing Kianas, which would make more sense, I would say, actually in Bologna than in Las Vegas, right? So maybe a little bit of a misread over here. And then we also have both of the players playing Death Grips. Now, Death Grip is a perfect card for Sett until to a point where it got nerfed and it doesn't work anymore. So you can't use it in the perfect scenario where you would like to kill a unit and then save it and still get the bonus. Unfortunately, the unit has to die, like literally has to go to the graveyard. So you cannot save it anymore with this set, because I thought this card is literally created for Sett. That's what I thought. I thought we're gonna see some sets with Sorakas and Death Grips and just try to abuse Death Grips, but that's not the case, which is, I feel like kind of sad, because I think that would be a cool archetype. But anyway, I digress. I do like the version of Viktor Lupin a little bit more, even though it doesn't have actions in the main, and I think those should be in the main instead of the Kianas most likely. But I do like it more because it's a little bit more consistent. I feel like the lower curve is better for decks like Sett. The 3 hidden blades allow you to close out games more consistently, while the version from Tomino has 1 hidden blade, and that is, in my opinion, like the most important card in this deck when it comes to closing out games or closing the gap when it comes to card advantage as well. So I do like it, the version from Las Vegas, a little bit better, and if I would be playing one, I would probably play something very similar to this. So not gonna lie, when it comes to Draven, I'm a little bit confused what's going on over here, because it says Marcus is in the article, but he's 3 out of 2000 out of 219 and 7th place. And then we have Sam D. Sherman winning Las Vegas, which is obvious. He gets the plate, but what the hell is going on here? I don't understand. This is the only Draven, I think, in this article. Let me check. Maybe there's something that I'm missing overall. Here we go. What the hell? That's so weird. Okay, so Prismaticism won the Draven best of, as you can see here. It's kind of weird that it was showing also the other player that finished 3rd. Anyway, so Prismaticism with the first out of 219 players in Bologna and the 5th place overall. And let's take a look and compare the lists. So Prismaticism list is essentially a Miracle Nocturne version with 1 Noxus Hopeful and 3 Battering Rams. Big fan of this deck list. I play similar list myself, although I do have more Noxus Hopefuls. And I do think it's an incredibly powerful deck. Now, there are no surprises over here. You know, it's just a Miracle deck, right? There's 1 Piercing Light. You could argue that maybe this should be a Falling Star. Like, if you're playing against a mirror and you prefer the Piercing Light, probably having 1 doesn't really matter that much. Well, Falling Star just probably is just a little bit better into wider array of decks. And then Sam D. Sherman went with the most cookie cutter but very consistent deck, Draven Midrange, which has almost all 3 offs, and it's a very good deck. It's an incredibly efficient deck. If you want to have one of the best decks in the format, with also is semi-relatively easy to play, then you have this Draven mid-range, and this is the deck list that I would personally would advise to play. And you can just swap between like First Forerunners and Mind Splitters depending on your local meta game, if you have a lot of like players playing Rebuke or not. So that's about it, but I definitely give here the Bologna a point, because I do prefer this version of Miracle. I think it's just more interesting, and actually more interesting to play against as well. I feel like it's just, you know, it's a deck that just has way more decision making in general. So by narrow margins, we have Las Vegas winning 14-12 when it comes to the more interesting decks, when it comes to the best of performance from both of those events. Hope you guys enjoyed this incredibly long video. If you would like to support the channel, liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends, watching the video in full is the best way to doing it. And if you would like to support financially, subbing on kick.com/LotharHS is the best way. I'm getting 95% of what you're paying, which is incredible support. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time.